What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. As you can see, we're broadcasting from the car today. There was like too much noise going on inside the house, so I figured I'd just take it out here. But continue with our Venus through sign series. Today we'll be doing Venus in Gemini and what happens when a person's Venus sign goes into the sign of Gemini. Well, the first thing you need to know about these guys is that these are serious people persons, charmers. When Mercury gets with Venus, it's like one, because Gemini is a sign of eternal youth, right? And then Venus is the sign of pleasure and just, creativity and expressing oneself. So the nature of the person is just very youthful, no matter the age. And being that Mercury is intellect and Venus yearns for relationships, this is what they search for in any kind of relationship. A relationship with mother, a relationship with father, boyfriend, girlfriend. They want to teach or be taught by the people that are in their life. Because Mercury is extremely curious, right? And Venus seeks pleasure. So put it together and you get someone who seeks out intellectual pleasure. And the thing I like about this placement and just Mercury and Venus coming together, even in a conjunction, is that it makes the person naturally confident. Of course, we would have to see how sun and moon is placed, but for the most part, what I've seen is that these are confident people. They are not afraid to speak up in front of a crowd, okay? And they look at the world as like a one big social gathering. So, we were just talking about in the Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio, that Venus and Scorpio pretty much works from behind the scenes. If they're pursuing you, you're like their prey. They're stalking their prey until they've reeled them in. Venus and Gemini, you can't help but notice them. They are going to be all out there, whether it is communicating or asking questions, right? So if a Venus and Gemini has a crush on you or flirting with you, they're gonna flirt in that intellectual kind of way. All right, they're gonna, hey, that did you know such and such, blah blah blah, bring up random facts, or if you have particular interest they know about, they'll want to engage you on what it is you do, right? So natural charmers, guys. Some celebrities you might know with Venus and Gemini. Tupac, the Gemini god. Yeah, he has Venus and Gemini. Megan Fox, you know, Megan Fox. Jennifer Lopez. Uh, a cool thing, John F. Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy both had Venus and Gemini. But yeah, just off of those people that I named, you can see that need for expression and you can see that social popularity. So another thing that Venus does, um, depending on what placement she ends up in, is give the person sex appeal. And like I said with Venus and Scorpio, you may not physically think of Venus and Gemini is beautiful, but in certain houses, it's undeniable. You can see that these are good looking people, but it blesses them with just a natural charm that you want to get to know. Whereas Scorpio is just magnetic and mysterious and they're kind of drawing you in. Gemini is drawing you in with its intellectual abilities and just dynamic overall personality, right? So with Venus and Scorpio and Gemini, Venus and Gemini, being some of the more sexual signs, look at the sexual nature and you can see how sexuality varies on uh, various levels. If you're dating a Venus and Gemini, you got to be aware that, and all Gemini, anybody with Gemini energy, you have to be aware that there are superficial tendencies attached to you. It's not that you seek out superficial experiences or superficial people, but you're naturally attracted to that because Gemini is very much an intellectual energy, right? Whereas Pisces or Sagittarius is a very much more spiritual kind of energy, right? So Venus in Gemini, or just a Gemini dominant, tends to go for people in a way based on superficial qualities. For instance, Geminis like to look good. That's another thing about Venus and Gemini. They can dress. Seriously, they can dress. I see this all the time. Like, this is a good indicator of when you don't know someone's birth info, but based on certain types of swag, you can tell if the Venus is in an air sign. Venus in the air sign, from what I've seen, especially Gemini and Libra, it just makes the people really good, charming dressers and things like that. Venus and Leo as well. Venus and Taurus also. But yeah, so they like to dress well, and they like that in a partner, man. You won't really see a Venus and Gemini with somebody. All right, if the person isn't a good dresser, they have maybe, let's say, a nice car or a good career. Like, Venus and Gemini has standards. Let's just put it like that. They got standards. Now, if you're dating these people, you yourself need to very much so understand their need to be entertained, their need for stimulation. All right? Now, much so like Venus and Libra that requires balance, I would say Gemini requires balance too, but in the sense of variety. Their balance comes from experiencing different things. So on one date, you might take them bowling. The next date, you might take them to hear some poetry or a concert. And then the next day, you may hit them with the Netflix and chill. Venus and Gemini will be all for it. Now, for those of you who have Venus and Gemini, I think you would agree with me that because you're so mental and things of that nature, you see the opportunity to manipulate people easily. I'm not saying that you do, but you're well aware of your ability to do so. And really why that happens is because of the magnetic charm that people feel from you. They know that, okay, this person may be a lot to handle, so I need to be on my P's and Q's, which ultimately kind of leads to them overextending themselves. So the person with Venus and Gemini, may attract kind of pushovers, and they don't necessarily enjoy that, right? But they're just well aware, like, okay, I could push this person's buttons, I could get them to do this for me, that for me, right? So that's another thing for those of you dating Venus and Gemini. Be aware of being used in a certain kind of way, all right? Now, we got to talk about the knock on Venus and Gemini. They are known as cheaters. But here's the thing with cheating and infidelity. Everyone's capable of it. Now, I'm just going to let you know why the Venus and Gemini would cheat. They would cheat if they're not actually getting that stimulation that they need. Because another thing about these guys is that they definitely go with the head rush of love, right? If this person doesn't have a lot of earth in their chart, they may just be head over heels for every person that they meet. And then you know what happens when you jump in so fast? You fail to see the flaws. And then what happens is months down the line, you're like, damn, I'm bored now. But you don't want to hurt the person, especially if you know they're a good guy or a good girl. But you got this magnetic charm. You can go out there and play the field and bring others to you. So it's not, I wouldn't even say that Venus in Gemini tries to cheat, but the way that their love life and social life is set up, the opportunities are just there. And that curious nature, right? That curious nature is just like, what if? Let me try. That's, so not all Venus and Geminis are cheaters, guys. Like I said, if you have a Saturn aspect or conjunct Saturn, whatever, you may be very much serious about your relationship and things like that. But you'll always be curious. If you go on, here's the thing with Venus and Gemini, right? Here's the thing with air signs, period. We break up today, I'll grieve for a week. Shit, I may grieve for 2 weeks. But I'm not grieving for a whole year. I'm going to get back out there and play the field again. So, like I said, they're very much social and confident and not afraid to try things. And obviously, this gives a profound ability to communicate with others. People, they listen to you. As long as you have a well-placed Mercury, whenever you speak, people will listen. They will like your advice and things like that. This is excellent, I would say, to get into broadcasting. Like a lot of news anchors have Venus and Gemini. And then also with this, Venus and Gemini tends to meet people in the same profession as them. So you really want to pay attention to what house this is in and what house your sun is in. Okay? I can go on and on because this is such an interesting placement, but I'll wrap it up right now. This is my interpretation of Venus and Gemini. If you haven't subscribed to my page, feel free to do so now. If you have any questions, hit me up. Let's chat. Until next time, peace.